Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the cut content of Spec Ops The Line, and it's time to go back in depth with the multiplayer version of the game. Multiplayer mode, that is. Because, surprisingly, there was a good amount cut from it. Some different features and options that didn't quite make it into the final release. Some of which could have really shaken up how the gameplay of multiplayer had worked out. And it really varies, from case to case. So I'll just dive into these one by one. They're all pretty interesting. The first one that really caught my eye is that there are a lot of references to bots in the game's files. Multiplayer bots with names and lists of how much XP you get from killing them, and other stats for them. I'm not sure if they were used for testing multiplayer, or if they were a planned feature that got cut. It isn't quite clear, but there's a decent amount of data left. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like you can restore them. One thing you can restore, however, is a specific kit item for the Exiles. It's a head that is of a soldier with a beard, long hair, and some scars, labeled as Jim, and in the game files it specifically notes that it's not going to be included in the final build. It's going to be left out. But you can restore it, and one of the members of the Expendables Reality Steam group actually contacted me on how to restore it. So in this gameplay footage, you can see me walking around and using the kit that shouldn't be usable. I don't know why it was cut, though. I mean, it looks fine. There aren't any issues with it. And it matches with the art style of the game, so I'm not really sure why they didn't want it in the final release. Speaking of things not in the final release, there are about 6 maps for multiplayer with different night and day versions, and with differences depending on what mode you're in. But there were 2 extra levels that were tested out in the multiplayer beta. One called Shipwreck, the other called Foreclosure. I believe the beta for multiplayer was console only, and there are still references to them within the files of the Steam release, but as far as I know, the levels themselves aren't present. It's unclear why they were cut. Very strange choice to remove them. Maybe they found issues with them at the last moment and figured they should just cut them instead of keeping them in. It's weird, though. Would have made for some more variety. On top of that, we also had some modes that were cut. Cut modes include Chopper Attack, Bombing Run, Spoils of War, and Special Delivery. All these descriptions can be found in the localization files of Spec Ops. Some of them, I believe one at least, is referenced by the announcer's voice lines. One called Spoils of War would have involved collecting rewards and bringing them back to your base for points. There were others that included something called an elimination mode, and it seems like there were some other modes featured as well, although there doesn't seem to be any voice work done for them in terms of the announcer. I mean, there's just a lot. It's not even talking about the cut weapons that might or might not have shown up in multiplayer, like the AT-4 or the PKM and the hunting rifle. Another interesting thing to note, this also went for the Exodus co-op campaign. The Exiles are referred to as the Spec Ops within the game's files, just as the Damned are referred to as Conrad within the files. This is done seemingly throughout all modes, where the people who are opposing the 33rd are referred to as Spec Ops. I don't think this was meant to be a sign of what the team was going to be earlier on in development. It's just an oddity that I thought was worth bringing up. Something else to bring up is that the multiplayer customization, there's supposed to be more depth to it, apparently. I mean, there's a surprising amount of character customization in multiplayer mode. I'll give that credit, even if I'm not a huge fan of the gameplay. But apparently there were more plans on how to customize the way your character looked. some designs that make it into the final release. It seemed like you could change how your armor looked and more about that. But even though you can change like the vest you're wearing and the level of armor you've got and all that, it seems like this would have gone one step beyond and made your character look even more different, so to speak. One more thing to note is that the pre-order DLC, the FUBAR Pack, not to be confused with the FUBAR difficulty, can't buy it or obtain it any other normal way, but you can make the game unlock it for you and get your hands on the early unlocked rewards, the XP bonuses, and some of the exclusive cosmetic items. There's a guide on Steam that you should definitely check out if you want to get that. It also has the encryptor and decryptor that's used for editing a lot of the game's files for modding and things of that sort. So I definitely recommend checking it out for that reason as well. That guide is one of the big reasons that I was able to look into the game more and figure out more about it. Multiplayer doesn't seem like it was high on the developer's priority, but I do like learning about what could have been, what they were considering for it. The way multiplayer works out now, I think it was a little too slow-paced for the multiplayer they were going for, but I can appreciate that they at least tried to give it a unique feeling and they tried to give it its own flavor and tie it back into the story. I like the whole Exiles versus Damned conflict, and I like how the factions are distinct enough. And I think it's also neat that they added all this depth to it with the character customization and challenges and all that, even if I think the XP grind is a little too high. What do you guys think about multiplayer in Spec Ops? Do you play it that often, or are you interested in any groups that might still play it? I know that Expendables Reality still sets up matches. You can see me playing on one of their setups where there's no HUD and people share the XP earned for kills and other stuff, which makes leveling up a lot easier. But I'd love to hear what your guys' thoughts on that and the cut features of multiplayer. I really appreciate you guys listening in. And if anybody knows what the deal was with Shipwreck and Foreclosure, why they were cut, why the gym head was cut, I'd love to know. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the cut content of Spec Ops The Line. Hope you guys have a great day.